but never a virtual one. So so I'm excited to have all of you guys with me, and I'm sure from all over the world. I'm excited to have you join me. The topic that I selected for sort of this session, I believe we have about half an hour or so, is future work. So just a quick background for myself. My name is Henry Liu. I don't have a cool name like Tiho Bear, so you can just see it, it's Henry Liu there. It's not the name on the passport. I've got a Chinese name, so this is the English name that I picked. But I'm a CEO, one of three partners at YGC. YGC is a corporate venture studio based here in Austin. So we work with Fortune 500 enterprises, solve some of their industry challenges. We work in energy, we work in transportation, and now we're branching in towards healthcare. In the coming week, we'll be organizing a virtual hackathon as well. So it's another first time organizing a multi-100-person virtual hackathon event. So we're excited to explore future of work. So the hackathon's theme is actually around future of work. And the reason why I chose this sort of topic is because obviously it's top of mind. What's happening with the recent impact from COVID and from the economic impact that we have. But I think there's more people paying attention to how to solve healthcare problems, vaccines and masks than really folks thinking about how this is going to almost permanently transition our work in the future. What does that look like? What does that look like in industries like oil and gas when the price is negative, right? When there's ton of oil tanks in the shores that can't come on board and that aren't being utilized. What does that mean for the travel industry, for the airlines or trucking? So we're seeing increasing demand for trucking industry, for transportation, logistics, due to e-commerce activities and shipping and transporting essential goods. And we're seeing a decrease in activity in oil and gas because recreational use of energy has gone down significantly. So I wanted to have this topic to share with everyone and kind of hear everyone's thoughts around, how, not just in the next few weeks, how will the world transition to a post-COVID world? After this, there's really no after social distancing, if you really think about it. So, so what does that world look like, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, even moving beyond to 2021, which is not very far away. So I wanted to kind of open that discussion for everyone to chime in, and how has that affected your industry moving forward? So if anyone wants to volunteer to jump in to kick this off, I'd love to have you chime in. Please.
Hi there. So I'm an innovation consultant. So I deal with an awful lot of changing companies. And what I've noticed is really that what's happened is a whole load of trends that were happening have just accelerated. So in the UK, high street stores are dying, and they have been for years, and they're carrying on. We're also seeing a huge amount of move to digital. This meme about like which acronym drove your digital transformation? Was it the CEO, the CTO, or COVID-19? And so it's just pushed a whole load of this stuff forward. What emerges next is really up for grabs, I think, and is a very interesting thing. I think what is really valuable to me in the discussion is what matters to us, and what this teaches us about what matters to us. And so for me, it's about how we can all create manifesting and lasting solutions that are actually more in line with meeting our needs than what's gone before.
That's great. And specific industry that you're working with today on the innovation side?
Yeah, well, I work with service industries, so pretty much generally interpersonal services, transformational services, and digital services, and the intersection of those things.
How are you seeing some of your clients sort of transform or preparing for the next transformation that's up and coming?
So I've seen a lot of them are really just working through the grief, the surprise, the confusion of what's going on. A lot of them just weren't prepared at all for this kind of thing, and so only the very forward-looking ones are actually moving into doing anything beyond that. And at the moment, it's a sense-making exercise. It's where are we actually? What's this telling us? What's going on? You know, how can we meaningfully, helpfully move forward?
Mm-hmm. And then which industries do you all think, and this is an open question, do you all think would be the fastest to kind of regroup and move towards, you know, this digital transformation acceleration? You know, because we've been watching very closely from different sectors, from, you know, energy to healthcare. It'll be interesting to see what's going to be the first movers of this, right? And have you guys seen any trends or anyone that stood out to you in terms of preparing for what's coming next after this?
I want to first say hi, everybody. I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching at New York University for 20 years music. And while I was doing that, I started a kind of a master class type online thing that meets up in person with people, so people can have a direct mentor kind of relationship, but also videos. And the research I did into the marketplace of online education, like Masterclass, Coursera, Udemy, was growing at 40% a year in 2018 and was projected from $8 billion a year in 2018 to $23 billion a year in 2022. And that was before every single school kid in the city of New York started Zooming to learn their classes. So in my case, to just sort of add something to the conversation, I'm both an inspirational speaker and an educator. And so what I found is that, you know, people are getting PhDs from Harvard online now. You know, this brick and mortar thing, like Matthew was talking about, like High Street. You know, I lived in London. You know, like the HMV and Virgin Records aren't there anymore because streaming took them away. And I'm able to talk like I did my own talk a half hour ago in room 5, and I'm able to reach people all around the world. So that I think one of the real changes is, I actually have friends of mine who are not on the computer, like they don't know how to do a Word document, they don't know how to do a DocuSign. And I think you'll die if you're not as adept in the three-dimensional world as you are in the digital world. And in my case, I'm just, you know, I've been going around trying to raise capital. I've been talking to people at VCs, and you know, a few friends of mine. I'm just going for it. Like what Zoom has done, what Corona has done for me, is given me permission to take off my perfectionist gloves that I have to have, you know, Nancy Pelosi's daughter like filming my films, or you know, some big superstar documentary filmmaker. I'm just like fucking in a bucket. Like I'm going to announce it on Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to put up that I'm having a famous chef, a famous fashion designer, a famous singing teacher from McCartney or some other name droppy thing, and just go record it, put it out. And I really feel like what's possible here is the do well, do good. You know, that you can actually morph in a very kind of compassionate capitalism instead of the sort of like winner takes all capitalism. So I'm going to pass it over to whatever else anyone wants to say.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Gagi here. One experience I would like to share. we really were hit severely because we lost several very important contracts. And we had to go back to the team and said that this is the situation. So founders are not going to take any, any payments and so on and so on. And we would need to cut certain salaries. And guess what? Some of our employees returned back and said, we have some money, so why don't you not pay us as well? And I think this has become a very interesting experience of the whole team somehow, mobilizing in a different way. We were able to come together to really address so much that we were not able to work in the office, even. So, and also the fact that you are now open, and you said, I didn't know that I could, probably because you didn't ask whether you could. And now that you see so much resources open, so you can not only navigate today between 6 rooms, but if you wish, you can tap into any resource in the world. It is open free, and people are looking for people who would come to their room so they can share. So we need, I think this is interesting time that we are going to evolve, not just industries, but I think as teams and people who are really going to have a better understanding and greater understanding who they have been working with, and how they handle this kind of difficult situation. So it will make many teams much stronger, and I think that will really make it for many. So that's, I think, my take on it.
Yeah, and Gaga, could you describe your business a little bit? What your role is, and what does your business do today?
Yeah, I'm co-founder and council member of Public, and also I'm CEO of Blockchain R&D Hub. So we have built an original peer-to-peer network with original blockchain solution, POS, which is a native environment for also distributed storage, which is somehow addressing the next web understanding. So we are now, the Corona made us, fast move node-to-node communication above even the internet protocols. So lots of interesting things came along with our thinking, and it's interesting that for a year we were like mingling with several launches, and during this month we have launched like several channels which were like they're ripe to go, and we see lots of interest from all our partners that were somehow also mingling around. So I think it's time where this effort that we all create is going to bring to some new level of understanding of the world and our role in that. So our effort is more of mobilizing others to take the lead and to become the owners of the space. And the previous discussion was about authorities leading the way from top down. I think this is the time when really we can empower people to take the lead and to be the owners of their own destiny.
That's great.
I think it's important that through this we will be able to really create new markets. Those markets that have been left for others to control and to manage and to let us in or not. Now I think it's going to be much more open world where we can enterprise together and make it much bigger. So it's a time for bakers, I think, that has come.
That's great, and thanks for sharing that. Anyone else have stories to share? How the current situation has
I
you
can
know,
jump in.
negatively or positively impacted your business? Please.
So I'm a high school dropout, longtime music fan there, Larry. Good on the music. You know, these transitions into direct to consumer brands have been taking place for a few years. For me, I've been working over Zoom. I live in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica with like 2 acres of property. I was harvesting dimethyltryptamine from the Mimosa hostilis plant on my property today. So very eclectic. So for me, if I were to explain it, I would explain the next 10 years in probably 2 novels. The first would be something called like the rise of the digital cowboy. I think we're going to see a lot more platform-like services. I imagine Tesla going to a platform-like service like Facebook, where there's no point to own a car anymore. Even ownership for a lot of these things is making less and less sense in terms of like, oh, I'm going to store it in my garage or something. There's a lot of wasted space that's gone into the system that we've created. So this brings us to like the decentralization and also the localization of distribution. Right now, we're going through heavy supply chain shocks, and this is likely going to continue for the next 18 to 24 months. You know, the base of most of our medicines that come from India and China, as far as I can tell, are no longer being delivered. So there is a time when probably somewhere near September, October this year, we're going to actually start to see these shortages come into our everyday living. And it's going to start to really, I think, invigorate and inspire the distribution channels to be more local. And for me, this is a process of the deflationary nature of technology, like that we can have a phone that you can upload videos to YouTube. We've pretty much put the power of back in the hands of the individual. Things like Bitcoin, blockchain, all these basically distributed systems are going to move into the forefront. And I think another one of these trends to keep a close eye on is 3D printing. I think open source, like I should just be able to basically print my own cell phone. I should be able to download a free open source version of it, or maybe different variations of that. And I think this is all coming in the next 10 years. So the second novel, after we get through this kind of digital cowboy renaissance where everybody's half growing a garden / working online kind of thing, I think we go into a very, very quickly moving sci-fi world where the 3D printing goes from like maybe pretty basic like face masks to being able to print the cell phones and to being able to potentially print food or other medicines based off the level of the 3D printing. So in short, that's my 5 to 10 year outlook. I think moving into the direct to consumer brand idea is extremely important. I mean, I manage a YouTube channel of around 25,000 subscribers, and it's probably one of the most fun businesses I've ever started. And it can be extremely lucrative if you know how to communicate and provide value to your audience. So I'm super excited about this stuff. I agree with both Larry and Gajek here, which is that, you know, and Gary Vee has this sentiment too, is don't wait to try to put something out perfect. Just keep putting stuff out right now, because we are in a very quickly moving space. And now that everyone's working online, it's going to accelerate even faster into these trends.
I think one of the trends that you touched on is the consumption for media has increased dramatically, right? The views for YouTube, the views for Facebook Live. So I've actually spent about 2.5 years working at Facebook in the e-commerce director consumer team over there. So just understanding that all these companies prior to coronavirus has kind of reached that peak of, you know, you've taken 3, 4, 5 hours of folks' time for consumption for media, right? And there seems to be that's sort of the top that you can, that's how many hours you have, right? And you're cannibalizing from other areas if you go any bit larger than that in terms of time. You have to take it from TV, you have to take it from YouTube, you have to take it from somewhere. But that total volume of a total number of minutes of watching media consumption has increased dramatically, you know, by I think magnitudes of 20 to 30% over an entire population in the world. So that's just more opportunity for content to be pushed out, even more advertising opportunity, right? So from a media standpoint, having worked at Facebook, you know, it's fascinating that we were able to just increase the supply of viewers for online content. But something that you touched on was interesting to me was I thought was a little contradicting was you mentioned that there will be more platforms like Tesla where you don't have to own a car, but then you have your own farm. So like one side is ownership and the other side is not ownership, right? So I've always kind of go back and forth and think about, are we all going to own more things from now on, or are we going to, rent more things? Because Airbnb is on the other side of that. I mean, travel has a lot to do with it, but gym equipment. Prior to this, no one really bought any gym equipment, and now everyone's buying gym equipment because they want to own it, right? So it's if you have any thoughts around that, ownership versus not ownership or sharing, what would kind of take over more than the other? I think that would be interesting to think about.
I'm going to imagine that's almost entirely cultural. If I were to close my eyes and think to myself, someone that's growing up in Africa right now that comes up with a great idea is 100% less likely to go through the process of patenting that idea and simply sharing it with other people to try to like basically imbue a better community. So I think it's going to be a cultural definition on the open source nature of ownership or not. It's a difficult question because we know a lot of like the idea of capital itself is kind of birthed from private ownership. Like we all here have identity of some kind, I'm sure, a passport, driver's license, and this is our governments own that part of our identity. We don't own that. So this is a really big question as to how do we kind of remove the middlemen of the ownership of ourselves in that one, because a lot of capital is created by your ability to own and say, hey, like this farm is mine, the 150 kilograms of turmeric, like this is what I'm going to use to produce something. So I think that will largely be dependent upon the community that you are in during those times. Like it's very unlikely that we're going to have a Tesla platform down here in Costa Rica anytime soon. So I think it's a timing thing.
If I may jump on,
Please.
if you know that the first real cooperative movement started in agriculture actually, and it was the feudal Russia who from the ashes became, like in 7 years, I think, #1 producer of wheat for the world before the revolution.
So do you mean, sorry,
also,
the Bolshevik revolution? Just
before Bolshevik revolution, the Tsar Russia introduced the cooperative movement where people could share what they could produce. On the other hand, you mentioned very important aspect of ownership. And you don't, with the technologies, you don't need to worry very much about patenting things because we will, for example, we have introduced, content as a service understanding. So we create, IDs for any content and any parts of the content. And, any copy becomes unique. So you can translate it to any type of asset. When you have a digital asset, then you can have ownership claim once you enter it into the network and everyone recognizes it. It be it identity, be it a car, anything you like. So I think we are moving into a space where we have a transparent, way of approaching to property ownership, identity, and so on and so on, as well as being able to protect it in a way we like. I was discussing recently the understanding of why not we introduce a new taxation model because we are so global. I'm coming from a virtual, society which wants to be like, have a space in this world. And this has taken very interesting spins. But you can invite governments to be like to have a wallet in your ecosystem and say it's open. You can be part of it. Why not? And we want to pay, for our countries to flourish. Of course, you mentioned there is no border in few probably years, which I like very much. We are borderless already. However, it will take some time before our legacy systems, are changed. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing on that. And Anyone else that want to share sort of their outlook and any insights into the future of work? How will we work in this new environment, in this new market condition? And remind me, this is about half an hour, is that correct? Just want to make sure that I'm not running overtime. Yeah, because I think we're right around, so about 4 or 5 minutes left. This has been a very interesting discussion so far. You know, I think for me personally, you know, I want to dive a little bit deeper if anyone has any insights to particularly any industry, you know, so we're seeing dramatic change in industries that are outside of tech, right? So I think the tech industry is probably the least affected because we've been working virtually, right? We're used to Zoom calls. We're used to working from home. We're used to all the tools that we have through digital channels. But when you look at, you know, some of the brick and mortar, some of the energy, some supply chain, you know, those are very physically intensive labor and work. If anyone is touching those areas, you know, I'd love to learn how you are preparing for change and, you know, what some of the things that you're seeing that's coming next, that's outside of tech.
If no one wants, I have a friend who is in art business, and he's a great collectioner, and he has put all the gallery into visual space now, and we don't need any more like you know, Art Basel, you know, all these type of, you know, fairs, and he's one of the top you know, gallerists and collectioners in the world, and he experiences like a huge interest in art because I think there are not that many. And the second thing is that he's suggesting that because of the burst of the information where you can share it now openly, many icons that have been created by, you know, good marketers, they are falling down because there are no art behind them. And it is kind of becoming transparent in the art industry that, you know, the sharing of the knowledge, and, you know, and he's now doing the series. I was telling him, you should go because you are like icon, you should go and start, you know, doing. And he said, yeah, now I'm trying to put all my artists together to create these, you know, interviews and meetings and so on and so on, so we can share this knowledge openly to the world. And I think this is another transformation that is going on in the art scene. So no more big gatherings, fairs. Rather, everything will be moved into digital space, and you will see lots of museums and galleries being virtual, and people really going virtual, sitting there, or, you know, interacting with their you know, buyers and painters and, you know, sculptors, you name it.
You think that the art will have similar value or similar appreciation from people to do it virtually versus physically? And I feel that the experience transition might take some time, or we might have to get to AR, VR, or do you think that's ready today?
Well, from the experience of the physical, you know, touching and understanding the art, I think that would be important to have. But we have a lot of technology that really shows, you know, you can go deep into it. But I think art is an experience sells rather than the art itself. So the ability to go and, for example, for the art shows, you would be lined up to talk to the painter. But now you have access to him, and you can interact, you can discuss, and so on and so on, and millions can see. So this will enlarge the potential for, you know, selling art. And also you can put lots of education and knowledge there, which is not you know, available. I was dreaming that that this guy, for example, he changed my understanding of art.
Mm,
So I was thinking that this knowledge should be shared, and I met
mhm,
several artists who really need to go out and share the knowledge, because you really need this to for the world to understand
mhm.
what is it in the art world.
Right. Absolutely. So I think we're just around time here. So I've actually posted my LinkedIn, in the chat. So if anyone wants to continue this discussion, we're really in the heart of this with enterprises and digital transformation. So look forward to connecting with you guys offline. Just want to say thank you all for your support or for joining this session and sharing your insights and sharing your outlook. Let's get through this together and let's change the world for the better. So appreciate you. Happy Friday. Stay healthy and safe out there. I'll catch you guys offline.